Hi, this is Dave, Fell Running Guide. Welcome to this week's navigation task. We've got a lovely Peak District morning for this week's task. And again, I want you to identify two features that I've shown on the photo. So this one here and this here. So one of them is quite easy, the other one a little bit more tricky. And we'll get onto the details of that one in a moment. The map this week is the Harvey's Superwalker 1 to 25,000, and I've got a licensing agreement with Harvey's to allow me to use their maps. So let's have a look at the photograph to start with. Are there any obvious features that we can see? Well, yes, of course there are. We're on a high point, high ground, drops down to our left into this main valley with a road running through it, disappearing into the mist. And on the opposite side of the valley, these fields here, these are catching the sun. So that's going to give us an indication as to which side of the valley we are on, because they've got to have a southerly aspect to them. Really, if they're catching the sun, these can't be north-facing fields. Other things to look for, well, we've got this large area, this sort of tongue or broad ridge ahead of us with the feature on it that we're looking for that drops down into the valley, and to the right and beyond it we've got another obvious steep-sided valley, so the ground drops down and then out of sight here and then drains down into here. Higher ground up to the right, and then looking in the valley bottom, well, hard to see, but looks like we might have some buildings there, and then it starts to go up the other side. Looks like there may be another valley here, just coming down, 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 down into the main valley, and then steeply up the other side. We've got this high ground here, and the feature we're looking for is really quite distinctive, isn't it? It's got a backwards C shape in the contours here where the ground is almost scooped out. So flat land here and then a sudden dropping away. You can see all along here got a very steep drop off, and then the ground in the distance high, that might be out of sight on the map, but certainly a few things to look at there. So can we see any of that on the map? Well, we've only got one valley with a main road in, which is this, and we mentioned the side of the valley with the sun on it, so that's got to be this side of the valley facing south, which means that we're looking at it from over here somewhere. And then there's only one other main valley draining from the south into that, which is this Blackton Brook. So we have to be over to the west of that, looking down. Remember, we're looking down across a broad ridge, so could that be this Woodmore and the Wicken, with the valley on the right hand side dropping down. We said we could see some buildings, so possibly Blackton View Farm here. Then along there's that other valley, look, that's coming down from the north to meet the road, and then the ground rising, rising, rising on the other side. Contours get very steep here. We've got these little crags, and then it flattens off beyond it. But see how these contours come round here in this backward C shape, and this area here being that area that was scooped out, as I mentioned. So that is that feature we were looking for in the red circle. I wonder if we can make out this grey line here on the Harvey map. Now, grey lines are non-maintained boundaries, so that might be a ruined wall or a non-maintained wall. Be interesting to see if we could see that. Well, yeah, we zoom in, we can see that quite clearly there, catching the shadow. So that is that ruined wall that we're looking for. I would always look at the natural features first. We've got a great big obvious natural feature there, so we wouldn't be looking for the man-made features to identify it, but it's sometimes interesting just to marry those two up together. Yeah, so we can see that steep ground, probably some craggy ground in it as well there. And then coming down, and there, look, there's that Blackden View farm building there, and then we've got another triangle of woods there. What about on this side then? So that was your easier feature. What about this feature that we're looking for here? Well, it looks like we've got a wall line coming across here, which then drops into another sort of valley here, dropping down, and then that wall line going out of sight down there. So is that possible to see on the map? Well, we've got two walls here. We've got this one dark, means it's maintained, so that might be a wall or a fence that's possibly in decent repair. And then we've got this other one coming across here, a grey line, so a non-maintained boundary. Now, some people said that this here was the feature that we got in the rectangle. Some people said it was this one here. But if we look at the aspect, or the aspect of slope or direction of slope, doesn't quite fit in, because this black line here is at the top of a very steep east facing slope there. So that would be sort of just out of sight beyond this ridge, almost parallel to this valley here, this Blackden Brook Valley, whereas this one is cutting across. So it makes more sense that this is the ruined wall that goes across and drops into there. So what does this leave us with? So have a think about that. If that's our ruined wall going across from Blackden Brook into this valley, then that feature we're talking about comes down and meets it in here. So what could it be? Well, if we look at the contour lines here, see how they kink in this very obvious C shape? So that's a re-entrance, or might be a gully of some kind of dry stream, and they're quite prominent higher up the slope, not shown on the contour lines as much where it crosses, where it flattens out rather, but there's one there. So maybe this re-entrant actually comes down towards here and then swings in. So the obvious thing when you see something is to try and make it fit, oh yeah, that's got to be that wall, it's a man-made feature, and assume that's it. But if we look at the orientation, it's not quite right. So I think it's just a continuation of those drainage, or the re-entrance that obscured out sight up here, going down, down, down and into our wall. So that's a bit of a tricky one. The final thing is, where was the photograph taken from? Well, I'm stood on a boulder, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's big enough to be shown on the map. Steep ground to my left, flattening and then dropping away ahead of us there. So some people suggested it was that boulder there. Some people suggested it was this 601 height there. Some people suggested it was that bouldery ground there. Well, if we think about how close to this edge before it drops away I was, not that far at all. So this one is a bit too far away. We'd see too much flat ground before it dropped away. So I was actually there. So that was what we were looking at. Do we have a top answer this week from people posting on social media? Well, yes, we do. There might be others coming in after I've made this video, but the top answer so far is this one from Cranley Outdoor Education, a regular poster. Let me just get rid of my arrows on it. So I like the way we've pointed out the angle of the sun there, indicating that the sun is shining on this area over here. Got the location of the photo right, got the craggy area up high on the hillside correct. The only slight thing fell for thinking it was this wall line here, but certainly in the right area, and some nice use of IT images there. So well done. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I hope it made sense to you. Now you've seen the answers. Thanks for watching, and look out for next week's navigation task. Bye for now.